Alrighty. I don't have anything like Kerbal Engineer or fancy mods that do readouts. I kind of limit the number of mods that I use based on processor and whatever. I like my game to run smooth, so I use actually JSI raster prop monitors. It's already got stuff installed or that comes with it, like just stock that or not stock, but stock with the JSI mod that gives you it's this button right here. Like if you click down here, it's this button right here, your data button. Gives you a stage delta V and ISP, and its estimates are actually, I feel, very in line with pretty much everything that KSPIE Interstellar Extended throws at it. Every now and then you might have to to get it to, like if you load right in and it doesn't give you a readout, you might have to load just cheat a new stage in right here and then stage it, and then it'll kick it on. Sometimes all you actually have to do is turn the engine on and fire it for about half a second, and it'll do the math and give you a readout. So we're going to start off, we got the Z-pinch aerospike, and we have a few fuel tanks, liquid hydrogen, liquid nitrogen, and hydrogen peroxide, and of course atmosphere. There's monopropellant on here, but this thing doesn't actually burn monopropellant, so ignore that. I just put it on there just because. We have an escape pod on here because Suler, our engineer, for some reason wasn't able to hire a pilot, and all my pilots are on mission right now, so I had an engineer is what we're looking for today anyway, right? So anyway, without further ado, let me go ahead and stage the engine. Okay, I guess it wants to start off in hydrogen peroxide mode. It feels that's the most fuel-worthy mode there. So, now, mind you, in atmosphere, this is going to be different than if we were in orbit. But in atmosphere, currently we have something that looks a little ridiculous, right? 2,000 delta V and an ISP of 1,022.7. Whereas Kerbal over here thinks it's 1843. Okay. My experience, this number is more accurate most of the time. I'm not like good at the math or anything, so I can't tell you that number is always going to be accurate, but this one seems to be the more accurate of the two. Most of the time, not 100% of the time, but I could be wrong on that because math. If you're interested in these numbers, I'm sure you do math better than me. So you can take a look at this, what it says right here, vaguely sea level, where we're at in the atmosphere, and it gives you an idea. Now, normally these things don't work in the atmosphere unless you have it in atmospheric mode. If you do fusion pellets, you're not going to do anything. Hydrogen, for instance, liquid hydrogen. KSP thinks we have 2 meters per second of delta V in there. Raster prop monitor believes actually we have 0.4 meters per second, and we'll be donezo in just a moment. And were I to fire this engine, trust me, these will empty out real quick and nothing will actually happen. But what we're actually going to do is, first I want to show you that I kind of fibbed. Hydrogen peroxide is such an awesome fuel. I actually prefer this in thermal rockets as their propellant when they're not using atmosphere. But hydrogen peroxide, check this out. Silly, right? That's H2O2 right there. I purposefully put these here to provide enough drag so that Suler here doesn't explode into a bazillion pieces. Anyway, normally we would fire this in atmospheric mode, and it would have all the G-forces. Oh, sorry about that, Suler. Didn't mean to do that. But we want numbers. So atmospheric mode, it's gonna give us that, but your actual thrust to weight ratio is about 15 to 1. It's gonna pump out about 5,000 kilonewtons. If you want to look great, where is that at? Thrust. It'll just keep climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. So you can't really trust that, but you actually will spool almost all the way up to that. Now, if we change fuel modes while we're up here, let's take a look at hydrogen. Now that we're at atmosphere, we have considerably, you can just fire the engine there, considerably more delta V. Now KSPIE thinks we have 10,000, raster thinks we have 42. Short of burning this, there's only one way to find out. Nitrogen, you're going to get about, 1,000 kilonewtons at, now mind you, we're still in atmosphere, we're still 13% in the atmosphere. And as we climb, these numbers should change and time accelerate a little bit. See, it actually does it for the actual propellant modes. You can see there it's 1259 kilonewtons, 1259 kilonewtons, 3-to-1 mass weight ratio. We're still in atmosphere, but it's only 11% of the atmosphere. It says we got about 2,000 delta V. So you can tell me which one of those you think is more accurate as you watch our fuel gauge down there. All right, we're just going to keep burning, and we're going to see which one actually runs to 0 first. Says we got 1,100 left, 1,049, 1,030, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and it is out. There we go. So as you can see, KSPIE has no idea what's going on. The might of the Z-Pench is too much for KSPIE to handle. It's just like, I'm out, bruh. Meanwhile, raster prop monitor is unfazed. It knows what's going on. Okay. If we switch here to hydrogen peroxide, give the slightest tap to our engine so that it can do a calculation. Got about 1,600 more meters per second, and now we are convinced that that's the correct number. Notice it'll toss 4,000 kilonewtons, 4,050 kilonewtons out the back, giving us in LKO thrust weight ratio of 13.3 to 1. We are cruising. Yeah, we're cooking. Okay. Did I have another fuel on here? Hydrogen. Yeah. Okay. So let's check hydrogen now that we're in space. Give a little kick to the engine. 4,715 meters per second of delta V. 10,000 ISP. 337 kilonewtons thrust. 1-to-1 mass weight ratio. Or thrust weight ratio. So it'll still move us. And we've got about 4,700 meters per second of delta V, which will obviously change as a little bit as this empties. It will readjust itself as the craft changes in mass as you throw it out the back. So it's still pretty spot on. It gives you an idea of where you're at least. As far as exact fine-tuning numbers, I mean, I wouldn't know if they're right. I just wouldn't. But we could burn it and find out. So just point this way. Liquid hydrogen. Okay. We've got 337 kilonewtons thrust. ISP 10,000. So this gives us an idea of what we're doing. As you can see, we're in a ridiculous little orbit there, so that's not going to give us much to go on as far as what we could actually do with this. But this thing will, you know, go for about 4,000 meters per second, and then you kick out. Okay. If we switch to peroxide mode, you're going to cause your Kerbal to lose consciousness even while you're in space. Okay, that's how much I love hydrogen peroxide as a fuel. But you know, your ISP is not nearly as good. You know, it's a tenth what you get from just plain old hydrogen. But oh boy, do you have some thrust to weight ratio. Okay. And so that's going to burn out really quick. Let's just go ahead and finish that off if we can. I suppose I don't have to use maximum thrust, but why not? Okay. Alright, the worst of that's over. And yeah. Any other fuels left? This will actually use quite a variety of fuels. I clearly didn't put everything on there. Oh yeah, fusion pellet mode when it's like this. When you're out actually in space, it's kind of like an electric engine. You know, 3 kilonewtons of thrust for friggin' ever. You know, is how that works. You know, you're not really burning a propellant. You're just, you know, oh, that was probably a bad idea. Yeah, so don't do that. You know. Yeah. It's just how that goes. Alright. I don't want you guys to worry. This is all a training exercise, and there's parachutes, and hopefully we're on. Oh, whoops. Okay, well, I mean, I can just get out and push. It'll be okay. But yeah, just kind of using that information, you can see that the Z-Pinch is basically a high efficient, high thrust weight ratio fusion engine that uses a variety of fuels. And you can rest assured that if you put a small quantity on there, you have a lot of fuel. Is what we're working with there. You know, we didn't have a ton on here, and we are lost in space. So, you know, do with that what you will. Have fun. And don't worry about Solar. We will get her home lickety split.